Good evening, free enterprise fans. I'm Alicel, and I will be starting you off tonight with some more Swiss for our Fabul Gauntlet. I'm joined here by Antidale for our runners, Floof and microKorgs. Good morning or good afternoon, Antidale.
Good afternoon or evening, Alicio. It is nice to be here and looking forward to this race of one-on-one competitors where they are looking to get to 2-1 and hopefully really significantly increase their chances to make it into the bracket stage. It looks like we have a Wonder Woman Rosa start. I bet the runners will enjoy that. Do you want to kind of go over the flags that we have?
Of course, not a problem. So tonight we have the 5 random objectives, which we will see once the runners start. And then you have to go and defeat Zeromus. Um, and like you said, our runners are currently 1-1. Both have gotten one win, and one will be going to 2-1 after this race, and one will be going to 1-2.
And overall tournament structure is we'll have 5 rounds of Swiss, and anyone who gets to 3-2 is guaranteed at least a chance at a play-in into the bracket stage, where in brackets you'll get a little more advanced flag sets, and you'll start actually knocking people out of the tournament.
And as you can see on the screen, we have key items can be in the summon, moon, and main locations. We're on character standard, treasure standard, shop standard, and bosses standard, except for alt gauntlet. Would you like to explain alt gauntlet, Antidale?
Oh, it's one of my favorite flags in the new 4.0 version that came out in January. The All Gauntlet is where we take the normal football gauntlet that we're used to seeing, those generals and fighters and imps and water hags and whatnot, and swap those out for actual random encounters, vanilla ones, from the surrounding area of where that boss encounter is. So that means on Ordeals, you'll see a lot of undead and ghosts coming at you. But if you get to the moon, you'll start seeing some red dragons and trickers and gold and silver dragons. And the runners are on a delay. And it looks like they have just started. So we'll see what their partner character is as well as their first key item.
And it looks like we see a palom with a twin harp, so we could get some music.
Yeah, that's a real nice start. You have Palom. Rose will be your white mage almost certainly throughout the entire game. She is far and away the better of the two dedicated white mages in terms of hit points and endgame utility. And Palom is generally considered better than Rydia. She can be a little bit stronger early if you get good summons, but Palom will definitely carry you throughout the entire game.
And Palom does learn Quake much earlier than Rydia at level 23. And here come our objectives.
See, it looks like we have Raise the Whale and Complete the Giant. We're defending Fabul, getting Sid, and if Korg switches over to the next one, I can see what the last one is.
It looks like we have to defeat Rubicant and complete the Giant of Babel. So some little more difficult flags, but pretty straightforward.
Yeah, we're really only and whatever hides Rubicant and hides Sid. And Sid being a character that is not gated in C standard. He can be in any character location. We could find him pretty early. He could be up here on Hobbs as soon as possible, or he could be hiding somewhere pretty deep. We just won't know until we find him. Looks like we see an Edward in the Baron Inn, and I think we've seen a bunch of spears. So if we find Kane, Kane would be well equipped.
And we also did find a cursed ring in the backside of Baron, which is very, very nice for these runners.
Yeah, that will set them very well to have what we call an agility anchor, where that's really important near the end of the game when most of the bosses are much faster than you. You'll kind of be able to slow them down by because all of the agility in the game is based off of, or the relative agility, it's based off of the agility in this particular flag set of your middle character.
And we see a pretty standard route from both of our runners, just getting some loot, getting a little bit of money. That way they can buy some items to help them get through the early game.
Yeah, and we'll see some high tier gear that they'll probably sell. Like that ninja shirt is Edge's best individual armor in terms of just overall stats, but most people don't use it because it's not actually as beneficial for him attacking as the black belt that he normally comes with. And since he's the only one that can equip it, and it's very expensive, something that our runners could sell very well. And I see Veloraptured in chat asking if these flags are always used. This is the current flag set that we'll be using for the Swiss rounds of the Football Gauntlet. There's no wrong way to play free enterprise. I will enjoy flags that are easier or harder than this, and very well depends on what I feel like in the day. The objectives that we're getting are random, but the flags themselves will be the same throughout.
Very true. You can play free enterprise as hard or as easy as you'd like. The game does randomize if you do the random objectives, but if you just want to have a basic go up to Zeromus base game rules, you can do that as well.
It looks like we have a Dark Elf and a Dark Knight Cecil facing off at the top of Mount Hobbs. That Cecil won't be too useful early, but as soon as we complete Mount Ordeals and turn him into Paladin, he can become a powerhouse. At Crim 19, I imagine Korgs is probably pausing a little bit to maybe write down the objectives or take some notes on what's going on or thinking about stuff. There's a lot that the runners will probably want to refer to as they go out throughout the seed. Remember where shops are or where they have to click on people or just what their objectives and what their plan is. So you might see some runners pause a little bit more than others depending on how comfortable they are or how fast they are taking notes.
And we do see a very early sorcerer robe for our Palom, which is going to be very helpful in his magic out.
Yeah, both magic and defense. It'll raise both magic stats, and is pretty much top tier end gear for mages, excluding the adamant armor, which is not available at all on this flag.
And it looks like both of our runners have unmoored their hovercraft. If this turns out to be a hook seed, that would be very, very helpful. Or if they do pick up a rat tail.
Yeah, it's part of often the normal kind of route of things as you go, or grabbing chests. There's a bunch of chests in the Damsian basement that our runners usually like to grab. And then while you're there, you might as well just get that hovercraft out there so you don't have to worry about it later. And Loof is through the first portion of the Dark Elf fight, where he changes from the elf into his dragon form. One neat thing about the dragon form is that it no longer has the boss bit, so it is susceptible to things like stop and the weak spell that you normally wouldn't have bosses be susceptible to. And Elsil, did you catch the boss that was in the waterfall? I kind of missed it.
It was the Magus sisters, so not required, and a fight that you definitely are glad to see somewhere you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially as you get later on, where they can just become pretty obnoxious, having to knock all three of them out, or at least having to knock the middle sister out, where she couldn't resummon the other. Looks like both runners are feeling pretty confident in their party and not taking time to do more looting or do some shopping to maybe get some extra gear or some of those vampires that we've seen other runners use.
And for those in chat who are not familiar with some of these item names, would you like to go over some of the J items that we use in the randomizer?
Yeah, as you said, we have the J items, which we call all the items that were in the Japanese releases of Final Fantasy IV, but did not make it into the US one. And so, like this firebomb that Rosa is tossing on microKorg sides, casts your current HP based fire spell to all enemies that's non-reflectable. And then you see Thor Rage, which is kind of like a lit one that would attack all enemies on the screen. So there's level 1, level 2 elemental spells, as well as a Gaia Drum and a Stardust that kind of cast a small version of Quake and a small version of Comet or Stardust. Then you also see things like Star Veils and Moon Veils to kind of give you wall and barrier effects. Pretty much anything that is a spell in the game also has a corresponding item that can be used.
And in the case of some of these items, they are actually required to be available ungated, as some bosses in some locations will require you to use those items to get through. This can include your Star Veils, your Thor Rages, your life potions. Those, of course, are in the base game. But they want to make sure that you can actually get through these bosses prior to having to level up to obscene levels.
Yeah, they're definitely boss mechanics that are a little bit too rude until you're able to naturally get the spells. So we give runners the opportunity to kind of purchase a white mage or a black mage on the side in order to really get through some evil bosses like Golbez in spots where you would find them much sooner, or where you encounter them much sooner than you would in the vanilla.
And we do see an elven bow pickup in the antlion cave. That's going to be a huge boon for our runners.
Yeah, I imagine that Rose is going to get that equipped immediately. That's a great bow. It'll raise her black magic stat, but more importantly, makes her be able to attack physically fairly well, and hits mages for extra damage.
And we see one of our required bosses here in the antlion cave, Rubicant, which should go down fairly easy in this spot.
Yeah, he does have that Fire 2 based counter where if you attack him with the fight command, he'll always counter with Fire 2. But he's weak to ice, and in this spot doesn't have that many hit points, only 800 to 1,000, so a runner should be able to get through it. Although, if they get a glare, one person is definitely going to go down for a moment.
And we see our Piggy Pally take a fall.
Yep, but Palom tosses a life potion, and Rosa looks like is going to attack. Oh, it looks like she aimed. Perfect. That's a great use of an alternate fight command. Aim and power and things like that won't trigger that counter spell. We've also doing a good job of showing us that you can use a bunch of weapons as though they were items, using that rod in order to just do kind of like a magic missile attack.
And we see Loof through Rubicant, getting his 4th objective completed.
And also a gold apple for his trouble. That'll give one of his characters 100 extra hit points. See microKorgs actually taking advantage of Rubicant's ice weakness. He's open, he's weak to ice spells. He's always weak to ice melee attacks, or ice physical attacks. And so microKorgs is able to do just a little bit more damage and get through the fight a little bit faster overall, although he's still behind a full check on Mount Hobbs.
And for those in chat who have not seen our palette changes for our characters yet, all characters have 13 different palettes they can have. They're all made up by our resident artist, Scala Kitty. Most of them have a theme, like for instance our Wonder Woman Rosa. And while it doesn't do anything in the game, it just gives it a little bit more fun and flair.
Yeah, when they first came out, they were turned on with the dot or dash fab uh, command for fabulous because they are indeed fabulous. Most of the runners in the early game will take kind of a similar route, hitting antlion and hobs. Usually also here doing defending Fabul. Our runners are definitely going to defend Fabul since it's one of the objectives. Looks like we have a Fusuya sitting in bed in Kaipo. It'd be very nice if the runners find a sand ruby.
Yes, an early sand ruby to get that foo will just open the seed wide open.
Yeah, we have the Fusaya challenge flags turned on by default now. So it means Fusaya will join your party at 500 hit points and I believe has 6 spells. Uh, but every boss you kill, no matter whether Fusaya is in your party or not, will give him an extra 100 max HP and unlock 3 new spells. Those spells do come in a random order, although they are slightly weighted to give you more powerful spells a little bit later.
And Loof is through the Fabul boss and is about to get his second key item check.
And finds that red tail you were talking about earlier, Alessiel.
Now that can make our runners worry a little bit. There are 2 ways to get to the underground. There's the normal drop the magma key down the well, and there is the hook route, which is significantly more difficult.
Yeah, going through the hook will entail going through the vanilla King Queen Evelyn and vanilla Rubicante spots, which are noticeably higher level than anything else you would find on the overworld. So sometimes it can be a lot of trouble if there are some rude bosses. And the main reason why we brought up the hook there is because you won't be able to turn in that rat tail until you find the hook. You'll need to get the hook attached to the Enterprise, and then that will allow you to pick up the hovercraft and bring it over to where you can go visit the Adamant Grotto.
And it looks like microKorgs is doing a little bit of shopping percent, maybe looking for an item or 2 to kind of boost his party and kind of give him that edge to get through that Dark Knight Cecil fight and take on some of these harder locations.
We get a lunar sparkle at the first Mylon spot on Ordeals.
And it is a nope rope. Ogo Pogo, not a boss you want to see anywhere, but in this location, not as big as a threat as he could be.
No, and you do have Rosa with Cure 2, which is great because that's actually going to do enough healing early. And we see that Loof is doing a good job of remembering that Ogopogo does counter any magic tossed his way with a blaze spell, and instead going to be bluffing up Palom to get Palom's damage up a little bit higher, so hopefully it'll be one shot with the next spell cast. A little surprised that we haven't seen Rosa actually toss a Cure 2. Oh no, it looks like we have. Okay, most of those fighters are pretty much full HP.
And Palom's Bluff, not in the original Final Fantasy II US release, but was in the subsequent releases, does raise his wisdom stat, and it can be a different number each time that you want to do, just depending on. Gets hit with a weak counter.
Yeah, that's actually a unique counter to any lightning spell cast, where instead of the blaze, you get a single target weak, which actually you can do a good job of taking advantage of if you want to kind of control how much your whole party is getting hit.
But Palom's Bluff does increases his wisdom stat based on what his base wisdom is at the time. So the higher level, the less you have to bluff.
Yeah, and with those couple bluffs, those lit twos went from probably 3 to 500 damage to that 1200 to 1400 that we're done, and just makes it very nice and easy. Here we have some creepy dolls attacking us in the Mylensies.
And this is definitely one of those fights that you would like to have Quake for. You can take out all 6 of the dolls with 1 Quake, but since Loof has not gotten Quake yet, he's going to have to get a little more creative and hopefully not see a big Calbrena.
Yeah, I imagine we'll see him kind of pick off a couple of the, one or two of each of Cal's and Brana's, because as long as you still have one of each on the screen, they won't coalesce into the big doll. Um, but since we have so many enemies on the screen, they do actually split all the HP of the spot. So probably a couple bluffs, and we get the targets down a little bit to make the a mass targeted lit 2 do the rest of the damage for us. And microKorgs is through the Fabul defense, also with ease. A nice Ice 2 taking out that Rubicant form. Cleans up pretty well. We'll soon be picking up that rat tail. I bet both of our runners are pretty happy to get a couple of those objectives down and out of the way to where they just don't have to think about them anymore.
Very true. Sometimes you get stuck in a hunt for 1 or 2 objectives, or they're all gated behind one item that's at the very bottom of the moon. So to get these 2 out of the way quickly is probably a huge relief for them.
And microKorgs picking up a samurai bow out of the treasure chest in Fabul. That's the best bow that we can find in a normal chest, and does raise the strength of the user a little bit. So definitely makes Rosa a little bit more of a physical attack damaging powerhouse early. Definitely makes up for Dark Knight Cecil's very, very weak sword selection.
And I would bet that microKorgs is probably also going to be soon doing Ordeals to turn his Dark Knight Cecil into a paladin as soon as he picks him up.
Yep, looks like we're going to get that pickup check there as Loof is done through the dolls. I haven't gotten them down to 1 Cal and 1 Branding each before flaming them out of existence.
And does go ahead and take a safety save before going into the summit. As even though this is a low HP spot, there can still be some trolley bosses here.
Yeah, you never know, and you would really prefer not to have to redo that fight that you just went through that had all those attacks and all that animation. And we get a pan.
Still no access to the underground, but a pan before you go down there is very nice. It means you do not have to double dip.
Yeah, the pan is an item where when you go to the Sylph Cave and go find Yang and kind of tap him lightly on the head with it, the Sylphs will give you an item, and then you can go return to Sheila in Fabul to get 2 more key items. You can always just tap him lightly on the head with anything to get 1 item out of Sheila.
And this is not the boss you want to see in this location, as it is fairly free with that Paladin Cecil.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. The Young has a script, or Karate there has a script that on the second kick, when that's initialized into the queue, if he's hit, as soon as he's hit, or as soon as he does that, and then Paladin Cecil hits him with an attack, or even I think initiates the attack command, Young will say "ouch" and then just disappear. So it's something that our runners we usually like to see at a much more advanced location to kind of make it free and get a lot of XP out of.
And microKorgs has picked up his Cecil and is actually checking the front side of Mount Hobbs and finds all sorts of nice things, actually.
Yeah, that Siren and Bacchus wine and even the Diamond Ring are some very good items. Do you kind of want to talk about the specific uses of those since I didn't cover those when I talked about the J items earlier?
I would be glad to. So, a siren will summon the rarest encounter in an area, which our runners will typically use to great effect either in the underground to crack some eggs that give 34,000 experience each, or up on the lunar subterrane on floor 4, I believe it is, to summon some gold dragons, which give 90,000 experience once killed. As for the Bacchus, that will cast Berserk on the member that drinks it. And Berserk, while not a spell that I personally used as a child, now I know how useful and overpowered it is, as it just allows your character to go to town and take down enemies and clog the queue.
Yeah, I definitely never used that on myself as a kid because, well, enemies cast it on you, so clearly it couldn't be anything useful for yourself. But Final Fantasy IV's ATB, Active Time Battle System, kind of has a few quirks, and it's almost kind of event based, where only one action processes through a queue at the same time. So if your melee attackers are going, they don't actually have to have you input a fight command. They just will automatically do it when their turn comes up. So they'll kind of clog the queue, as Alciel said, and really effectively slow down enemies. It's one of the primary ways to defeat Zeromus.
And the advantage of having the actual Bacchus wines is you don't have to worry about your white mages taking the time and everything to cast Berserk. Rather, you just do it yourself and immediately just start swinging away.
Yeah, it gets you off to the races. So now we've completed Ordeals. We only have the Baron Inn as our last known key item check. Oh, we should also talk a little bit about the mystery.
Yes, so the flags we have for this are no free characters and no free key items. So usually, Edward will give you the twin harp in the bed at Troya, but instead we have made the Mist Dragon give a free item after you defeat it and go speak to Rydia's mother.
Yeah, that Mist Dragon can be anywhere, so our runners will learn very quickly when they get through the Baron Inn whether or not they'll have to go find the Mist Dragon. Of course, if they get through Baron Inn and don't have underground access, that means Mist Dragon can only be in one spot, which is probably the trolliest of them all, the normal vanilla Magiciser spot in the Tower of Zion.
Now, they do have the twin harp, so music is still an option for their underground access as well.
Oh, that's right, I totally forgot about that starting item.
I know that our viewers would love some required music tonight.
Yeah, one of the things that we do randomize, and the board face has written most of them, and Calm Lamity has now picked up the pen. We randomize the music that Edward plays when you go to Cave Magnus. It can be a couple of pop culture things. We've heard the Game of Thrones theme recently. Generally, it's themes from other video games, and they're all just excellently done.
Yes, it's one of chat's favorites between that and our Z flag. And it looks like Loof is through the first fight in the Baron Inn.
Yeah, this fight, the first fight doesn't have very much HP, so it's just one fire to cast is able to clear Malin and his friends, and then we have a Lunar Sparkle for this. That is Pale Dim, who does not take kindly to elemental attacks. So this is going to be a little bit of slog. Really going to lean on Rosa and her samurai bow or elven bow and samurai arrows to get through this.
Well, and we saw there that Rosa missed with her life spell, which is a thing.
Yeah, not often Rosa does. We normally call that Telelife when that happens. Um, but spells do have accuracy, and when you're low level, you can miss with them sometimes when you normally wouldn't.
But as a fight, Pale Dim is not too frightening, other than he does hit a little hard here, but um, much easier than some of the other lunar bosses that we could have found.
Yeah, this fight, since it's normally the karate fight, does have a pretty high physical attack for the area, and also because you're supposed to normally in vanilla exploit the script where Yang says "ouch." It has a lot of hit points. It's about 4,000 here.
And we do see on microKorg's screen that his Calabrana fight is not going as smoothly, and he has summoned a giant doll.
Yeah, ooh, and that glance hit someone I would not have wanted it to hit. Dark Knight Cecil would have been fine. Palom, possibly a little bit less so. Luckily, it looks like Palom's gonna hit himself, and the doll hits him too to knock him out of that where you actually get control.
And we do see Loof taking advantage of Cecil's cover ability. Very, very helpful ability that is almost broken in some fights.
Yeah, I might have not just had Rosa cast Q2 on everyone, but just kept Cecil turned up so that Cecil would automatically cover Rosa and so that he would take the bulk of the damage. His armor should generally be a little bit stronger than everybody else's, especially in the back row. And that way you'd be able to just let Cecil absorb all the harm. microKorgs looks like is through the Dolls fight, has cleaned up that Calabrana, and will now be going on to fight in the Ordeals room.
And Loof is still just kind of plugging away at this fight. Again, not a very quick fight. Pale Dim is resistant to all elements, and this is definitely not where you wanted to cast that.
No, Pale, you actually might be better off backing out of this fight and getting Palom up to Virus. That will significantly improve your time here. But as we saw, Pale Dim does not like elemental spells being cast at him. He will absorb them and then counter them. Wild Roger 2017 in chat asking if cover is broken if you use Moonveil as well. That definitely makes Cecil exceedingly strong in places because Moonveil does give you the barrier command or barrier status to where all physical attacks will miss you. So if Cecil uses a Moonveil and then you have everyone else in critical HP to where Cecil will cover them, pretty much every attack is going to miss you for the rest of the fight, making a few fights free, which is why Moonveils are something that are very hard to get in the current flag set.
And we did see on microKorg's screen that we got our ouch. And he now has a Paladin Cecil as well.
And we'll see if he's able to find any better weapons to equip Cecil with than Loof has found so far. Looks like we had a Fire Sword, and now Cecil switched to something else that's doing about 100, 120 damage a shot. This will be a long time overall for Loof to get through this fight, I think.
And we see Palom has now switched to Chemist, as all of his elemental spells will heal the enemy, which is typically not a good thing. And he's just kind of plugging away on with his paladin Cecil.
It looks like we don't have a lot of great options for Cecil right now. There's an Ice Brand that microKorgs has, which, since it'll be a physical attack, won't be won't heal Pale Dim, but will be a little bit reduced damage. So I wonder if either of the runners might take a look at this and decide to bail, maybe do some shopping, just find some vampires in shops, or maybe go back up to Mount Ordeals with some bombs, or just use Palam's Black Magic to kind of clear enemies until you can get Palom up to the virus command. I'm always never sure when to kind of cut out on a fight that I've sunk a lot of time into, or when to power through. What do you think you'd be doing here, Alice?
I probably would have, after basically restarting the fight with that spell, probably gone and seen if I could go find something possibly in the Troya Treasury, or maybe just gone up and messed with the enemies up on Mount Ordeals for a little while, gotten up to Quake.
Yeah, this would both be things that you could use to kind of accelerate this fight and the rest of your time here in the seed. And we'll see what microKorgs does when they get through this first initial fight, which will be pretty straightforward. Though hopefully Rosa doesn't kill Mylon too hard, because as soon as Mylon's dead, all of those ghasts will immediately start, or will be able to attack you on their own rather than being ordered to, and they can punch fairly hard.
Yes, their attack power is greatly increased and they hit like a truck.
Although it looks like this spot has a pretty low attack power, able to weather some of those punches pretty well. And we've got a Legend Sword for all of that activity that Loof did, taking out Pale Dim.
That does mean we either have a Mist Dragon fight or a required music.
Both of them would be lovely little trolls or wonderful things for us as viewers from Dathis, our seed roller. And that Legend Sword will also be useful if you can find Adamant once we get underground, because that can turn that Legend Sword into an Excalibur if you visit Cole's shop, as well as unlocking uh, the best shop in the game, which gets a little bit of boost over any other shop.
Very true. That is the only shop where you can buy some of best weapons for Kane, Edge, Cecil. You can buy, I think you can even find moon veils there for sale if you want to spend the bucks.
I think they might be possible there. I don't remember if they are a tier 6 or a tier 7 item in the New Balance, and Datha says that you can. Loof is doing some checks, finds an evil wall in Mist, and wisely just decides, let's not fight this while he's a jerk. Also finds the Mega Sisters that microKorgs had found earlier, and now knows that his path is going to be outside of Troya.
But probably is breathing a sigh of relief seeing that evil wall out of the pool, as that can definitely be something that kind of stops your pathing very quickly.
Yeah, that's one of the bosses that cheats the ATB system a little bit. Does what is called starting a chain, and kind of gets to attack and move a little bit faster than you might ordinarily expect it to. So very nice to get that out of the pool, not have to see that in a rude physical location like somewhere on the moon. We find Cure 3s and Silk Webs. Those Cure 3s are really nice, can heal an awful lot of damage, and can actually be kind of white mage in a bottle once you get into the Zeromus fight. And Silk Webs will apply 2 casts of slow, which will be kind of as much slow as you can add to an enemy to pretty much pull them down and double how slow they are in a fight.
And Silkweb's very nice item for Zeromus, as It does not get removed with his black hole effect.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. We'll often see runners use that to trigger an initial counter nuke, and we'll get more into the specifics of the Zeromus fight later. I see we picked up a black sword that's a little bit too late. That would have made things a little bit nicer for our Dark Knight's Hustle before he turned into a paladin, because that's the best weapon Dark Knight's Hustle could equip. And we found another ninja shirt that runners will be able to sell to afford some good items later.
Yes, typically in these flags, you don't see your edge until you've already have an established party, as he is typically gated, or he's always gated, and it's typically kind of down a long chain.
Yeah, and I see Stormstone99 asking in chat if this is randomized somehow. Indeed, you're watching the Fabul Gauntlet, which is the first 1v1 tournament for the Free Enterprise, which is a Final Fantasy IV open world randomizer. We kind of take all the character locations and shuffle them up, take the bosses and move them around a bunch. We're going to randomize some music here in a second. And what we don't do is we don't change any boss scripts, and we don't change what items actually do. So it really rewards good, deep knowledge of Final Fantasy IV, but gives you a fresh perspective every time you play. You'll see stuff that you wouldn't normally, and you get to apply that knowledge in all sorts of neat and interesting ways.
And Loof is heading down to do his music check. Do you have a favorite game or song that you'd like to hear tonight?
I always love Bloody Tears, but any Zelda songs have always been great. Really, you don't go wrong with them. Do you have any favorites you'd be looking to hear?
I think I'd still like to hear Kefka's theme.
Yeah, other Final Fantasy music too is fantastic and is definitely heavy in the rotation. And microKorgs picks up their Legend Sword. Uh, we'll soon know that pretty much you're going to have to run through this Cave Magnus in order to do anything.
And we see chat throwing out their favorites as well. So many good songs. I don't think I've heard near enough of them.
Yeah, just like the Zeromus sprites, I know I haven't heard all the songs or seen all the sprites, so always happy to hear new things.
And we did get a rune axe pickup pointed out by chat, which is huge for our Cecil, as it will increase his damage output significantly.
Yeah, for sure. And we will soon be getting that music. Loof doing a good job of taking advantage of the fact that if you enter that fight with all iron equipment on, you instantly lose it, which is perfect because then you won't have to go through any of the cutscene of Dark Elf casting spells. And here as Edward gets out of bed, that is our cue to take a moment and rest our voices and let you all listen to wonderful tunes.
And we do see Lou finishing up his fight.
Yeah, that's been a particularly rude scene with bosses in this party. Two bosses in a row that don't really respect Paladin's magic power very much, or at least the placement. Oh, and there's a hook. Delightful. But with Pale Dim being absorbing any spells cast And then this location, having exceedingly high magic defense, Talon's been kind of relegated to the side so far.
Yeah, he has not been given his chance to shine.
But now with the hook, we'll be picking up that hovercraft, doing a rat tail check, and then probably doing a check at the Cave Evelyn shops. One of the first shops where we could buy hourglasses, and there is a Mad Ogre treasure chest that's worth a lot of experience points if we get life glitches off. You want to talk about the life glitch?
Of course. So, in this game, everything has vitality, and when you are resurrected, you are resurrected based on how many hit points you have is based on your vitality stat. All enemies have a vitality of 0. So, if you are an enemy who is resurrected and you don't have the boss bit on, you are resurrected and immediately die again, but you give out your experience twice.
Yeah, and that's the only glitch we have turned on this flag set. There are others that are available to turn on where you can maybe duplicate items or use the warp glitch or the 64 glitch, the 64 stairs glitch, but only life glitch we have turned on. But our runners will use it to do what Alice will describe and double experience and gold gotten for enemies. And we get a darkness crystal out of the hook and the rat tail. That'll be very interesting for our runners.
Now, if you were running the seed with that darkness crystal, would you go ahead and check that before trying to forge underground, or would you just kind of put it on the back burner?
With this flag set and these objectives, I would be looking immediately at the moon to see what character is up on the lunar dais, and also what character is at the hook route, because both of those are character spots. And if either one of them is Fusuya or Tella, and with our current flag set, there is one duplicate character. We don't know who it is yet, so we do have a chance of either Fu or Tella being there. And if either one of them has the weak spell, which Tella will since we've completed Ordeals, I would immediately do a D machine grind and complete that giant objective.
And would you like to explain this D machine grind that you've mentioned?
Yeah, there is the vanilla Final Fantasy IV runners have step routes to kind of tell them what encounters they're going to get at a certain time, and we've been able to leverage their knowledge. And we have a nice little cheat sheet that, off of a fresh reset, you can kind of see when you're going to get an encounter that has a siren or an alert. I don't remember what the enemy's called, but I think it's a searcher and 2 beamers. And if you kill the 2 beamers and then attack the searcher, it will summon something. It can summon either a horseman or a D machine. And we want the D machine because that will then do HP based attacks. So it'll do 20% of your max HP when it gets a chance to flame. But it is susceptible to weak and has an awful lot of experience points. So if we have a caster, a black mage who can use weak, we'll be able to then kind of order our party, have the black mage in the center, get that weak spell off and kill the D machine, and also life glitch it to kind of get an immense amount of experience and do what we call slingshotting people if they are at a certain range of XP. We do also find sirens, which is our other primary grind option available here in the Moon Shop.
And for those who are not too comfortable with the D machine grind, those sirens are definitely something you want to see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what bosses are here, or will be at the hook route to know whether or not we could kind of get through them pretty easily, and then get down to the dragon eggs underground that are pretty easy to kill with those sirens and get 34,000 experience per. Or if the runners might prefer, if we get a weak caster in order to go and attack, do the D machines, and kind of get all the levels that you'll ever need out of the giant, and then just storm the rest of the scene. It'll be really interesting to see what our runners choose.
Well, especially seeing as how there is a character on the giant, and it is one of our objectives.
Yeah, we have double Cecils. So if we can find 2 of his excellent swords, Excalibur or Crystal Sword, they will be able to wreak a lot of havoc physically in the seed. But we still need to get them those swords and still need to get them level. It would be kind of a cruel joke if we got 2 Cecils and no crystal swords or no Excaliburs.
And it does look like Loof is looking to see if there is a free boss in Cave Bahamut.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. You can do a quick recharge here, fill up all your HP and MP, do a quick save, go check the boss, because you can peek the boss without having to go fight it. There are some treasure chests here too if you'd like. They won't be anything particularly special in this flag set. And then decide whether or not you want to just reset out, or if you want to take your loot and walk out, or maybe try and take that free boss fight. Here you're probably just looking to fight King Queen Evelyn, because I don't think we have any hourglasses to stop any other fights, and Water Hag is probably actually going to be a little bit too fast and hit too hard to actually take on.
And we do see the wrong king here up on the moon.
Yeah, Odin's going to punch real hard. And Zenit Hootson is still going to, even though this is not a super high magic spot, still going to do significant damage and kill all of these characters. I bet Loof is going to hope that this is not a required spot, because it will definitely take a lot of levels to get there.
Very true. You would definitely want your Palom to at least know Lit 3, if not just full-on new.
For sure. And microKorgs is through catching up. It's through that Mom Bomb fight, catching up to Loof a little bit, summoning their big whale, completing their objective number 2. And we'll see what both our runners do.
And it does look like Loof might be going to pick up his hovercraft and heading to the hook route.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only option they have left, unless they want to hunt for a Mist Dragon. They're really the only spot available where Mist Dragon could be, that they could actually take the Mist Dragon out, is the Mega Scissor spot. And pretty hard to imagine it's going to be there. I almost never would check that on the way through a hook route. microKorgs doing also their job of shopping and buying sirens and ethers. And then go ahead.
It looks like Loof is going ahead and checking these chests here. May just be looking to pick up some items and reset when he sees the Staleman, or may decide to take them on.
Yeah, getting those hourglasses might make you decide to take them on, although still they're not too often worth it. They don't really give you that much XP, but they can give you some really nice gear. I know when I go through here, I kind of play a little bit of I will save initially and then pick up a few chests, and then if I've gotten something good and don't feel like actually doing the fight, I'll just kind of only pick up 1 or 2 extra chests after a certain point and just hope that I don't trigger that. We see a Gungear Spear and a Charm Rod for sale, as well as a Dragon Whip. That Charm Rod's going to be the best available Black Magic stat stick for sale in shops. I would give +10 to the Black Magic stat.
Well, and we did see some ninja hats in the armor shop. That does increase your agility.
Yeah, they're a nice item to pick up, at least 1 or 2 of, so that you can really kind of manipulate your team party's agility to make someone fast enough to change their relative agility number, or to make them faster than a boss or something. Very nice to usually keep one around somewhere, but they're also a little expensive. I don't often buy them. There's our Cid. There's a CPU. So pretty straightforward boss in the Rubicant spot, if not a little bit long, and does complete another objective for our runner.
And we do have a question in chat. How does the pro randomization on shops and chests work? For the shops, there are just straight up certain items you will not see being sold, or if they're being sold, they will be in the coal shop after you forge the Excalibur.
Yep.
And oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say they're not turned down for this particular flag set, so we don't want to get into too much detail, take away from talking about the runners. But the very short of it is that you kind of wait, and some shops are better than others based on where they're at.
And it also looks like microKorgs is going to take a look and see what that boss at Bahamut is.
Yeah, probably also see that Odin and run far, far away. And as chat's pointing out, Underground's not actually required. We have Sid, so all of our objectives are completable. We can get Sid and we can go to Zeromus. I am not sure what I would do here. I would probably go underground and still look for somebody else, but with the right other equipment, if we had found Ogre Axes, you could do what is the Mac Giant grind to grind out. There is a single searcher in the Giant of Babel that, when hit, will summon a Mac Giant. That one's a little bit less XP, but if you have Ogre Axes or Lit Arrows or a Thunderclaw, you'll get a bunch of extra damage on hitting it. And Rosa's Blink spell can be used in order to make you not take any damage from their very strong physical attacks. And Korg showing us the other way that you can see the boss in that location, which is the way I would normally go if I'm just planning to peek it.
But as chat points out, with those sirens and hourglasses, our grind is essentially free.
Yeah, that's very true. We could be using those to go get the double dragon fights and just take those on for 90,000 XP a shot and an awful lot of money. So you just have to invest a little bit of time. Roger in chat asking, what is no mode? No mode is when you know how to get to all the objectives, but don't necessarily have all the pieces. Although in this case, microKorgs actually has all the pieces as well, or Loof, I'm sorry, knows and has all the pieces, just has to decide how to get the levels required.
And Korgs decides to look for some nicer items here in Cave Eblin. Maybe find a sword or two for his Cecil.
Yeah, there are 3 chap chests here. There's a triple mad ogre chest. There is a staleman and 4 skeletons that I don't remember the actual name of, and a black cat and a Lamia fight, where you can get some pretty good gear, and they aren't too difficult. Looks like both of our runners not feeling quite confident in their party's ability to actually go down this hook route, and are taking trap chests to get some extra gear and possibly also.
Very understandable. We did see a CPU in the Rubicant spot, but we don't know what is guarding the path on the King Queen Eblin spot.
Yeah, and King Queen Evelyn can be very rude. We actually had to, or Boardface had to make up stats a little bit on that because I guess there's an awful lot of HP there because that's another one of the scripted fights. And so that spot ends up having a pretty high physical attack value. And even though it only has about 8 to 10,000 HP, that's an awful lot for this party to chew through at these levels in this equipment set.
And it looks like Loof is having a little bit of problem here with the Staleman fight. Kind of just taking down his character.
Yeah, this isn't an easy fight. They can put your character to sleep, and he doesn't have a whole lot of damage output so far, but does get through it. Gets Cecil 4 levels. Palm gets Virus, which will be very helpful.
We only see a silent staff, which, while a great white mage stick, is not exactly what you're looking for at this point.
No, it's the second best in terms of raising stats, and it does do extra physical damage to mages, but not what you're hoping for. You'd be looking for a Crystal Sword Excalibur out of that chest. Yeah, and chat pointing out that Ice 2 is what those Stalemen are, or Ice in general as an element, is what those Stalemen are weak to. Looks like doesn't quite know all of the resistances, the kind of weaknesses of bosses and enemies, as well as microKorgs has. It's one of the things that, even though microKorgs is a little bit slow getting out of the gate, has definitely made good use of.
And it looks like Loof may be heading back out to possibly do a grind on some of those gold dragons.
Yeah, I think I would be second guessing myself constantly in the seed at this point because he knows all of what he has to do, but you just don't know. Like, you're often not in this place to where you don't know exactly how to best grind and get the levels that you need, and you're kind of probably weighing all your options and wondering, is this faster? Is this faster? Looks like we are indeed going back to the moon.
And microKorgs is also seeing those Hourglass 2s for sale and decides to possibly pick up a few.
Yeah, it looks like he had enough money for one of them. I wouldn't be surprised if he sells a bunch of the equipment that he's got to buy a few more. It looks like Loof is going to try and take advantage of the reaction grind. The grenade, I believe it is, enemy on the moon. If you hit it with a lightning spell, does a reaction where it blows up all the rest of its compatriots, and then you get all that XP for free.
This is a very nice grind, not nearly as scary as some of the ones that you can get.
So uses a siren, summons a couple of red worms, which not what he was looking for. Here's the fight he was looking for, though. It's definitely something you can use to kind of bootstrap yourself up a few levels. It's not going to be a grind you're going to take all the way to Zeromus with. But if you're kind of a little short of getting Paladin Quake, or just need a little bit of a boost to get over that next boss, definitely worth your time. But not one we see very often.
And does get a nice 18 levels on one of his Cecils, but not enough to get his Palom to Quake.
Yeah, that'll probably take a second one, and that Rose didn't get any XP at all. And I don't think Rose is yet in the range where you get what we call slingshot experience, where if you're 5 levels behind the median party member, not the average, but the median party member's level, then you'll get double experience. And I believe it's actually more than 5 levels behind.
And we do see microKorgs taking on his Staleman fight.
Yeah, those Stillmen being rude and knocking out Edward and Rosa. Edward's probably not going to see a lot in this seed, although, as Mercuric Wanderer in chat points out, he wonders what's at Elements, because there are some bosses that would be free there. King Queen Evelyn, of course, would be free, and Dark Knight Cecil, who we call Pain Man sometimes, would also be free with Edward's in your party, and you're able to get a hide off in time.
Well, and with that Edward, Odin is technically doable.
Yeah, you could use the Thunderstruck thing where if when Odin raises his sword a third time, he also queues up for a very short time a weakness to any lightning spell or any lightning ability, really, because the Zeus Rage and I don't remember the other one, Thor Rage, will trigger the Thunderstruck and automatically kill Odin. It's a little bit hard to do, but it's definitely possible with Silk Webs that we've seen and illusions that we've also seen in runners' inventories. It looks like Rosa again gonna miss out on the XP on Loof's screen from those balloons and grenade.
But it does give him enough XP to get a Quake on his Palom.
Yeah, it looks like that is what he was looking for, and turn the encounters back off, which is a toggleable thing. Uh, and then it looks like it's heading straight back to the blue planet.
And Quake being probably the best spell that Palom gets until Nuke will help him get through some of these encounters and bosses.
Yeah, part of the reason it's so good is that it multi-targets, it isn't reflectable, and the multi-targeting does not actually reduce its spell power. And plus, it has a very high spell power in general. So, Palom will be quaking for probably 2,000 to 2,500 almost right away. All the enemies on the screen that aren't flying.
And while they seem to be floating balls on the screen, CPU does not count as a flying enemy and is affected by Quake. If you want to go for the power overwhelming strats that are a little bit scarier.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're quite in the right spot to do that, although the CPU will have somewhere around 2250, I think, to 2300 or 23,000 XP or HP here at the Rubicant spot. So you get a little bit of damage done, and while you're doing that, you bluff Palom up to where you're probably doing 6 to 7,000 with the Quake, and you can see it being worthwhile. Unfortunately, Rosa doesn't yet have float or wall, so even though we do have Sarveils, we won't see the pretty cheeky but wonderful strat of bouncing a float off of one of your walled characters and trying to hit the attacker with it, um, which would then make them immune to Quake. And it looks like Loof is made grinds up in the Giant. Uh, looks like he's reset back up to the moon and is going straight, talking to the nice guard in the whale and going to check out the Giant. This will be a very, very interesting play.
Our restreamer Dathis does point out that he did leave a save in Cave Eblin though, so maybe going to see if there's a free boss there at the Elements location.
Yeah, it's a pretty good idea to kind of know what you're up against. Rosa maybe has Blink, but I don't think she does quite yet. So we'll just kind of have to see how this goes for her. And did forget that before they went back down to the blue planet that they had left encounters on. Remember to turn them off now. No harm, no foul, just a few seconds lost to that one.
And microKorgs is through the Staleman fight, and looks like he is heading down into Babel.
That's my girl.
Yeah, soon we'll be able to see. I imagine we'll probably do the Mad Ogre chest first, but then we'll soon get to see who is blocking our way in the King Queen Evelyn spot, as well as that CPU.
And that looks to be Baigen. That is definitely not free.
No, very not free. Definitely gonna want levels for that one. There's just so much HP at that spot. That's going to be a very long fight, no matter what happens. So definitely gonna probably take that reset back on where outside of Cave Evelyn, or maybe back on the moon. We'll find out where they actually want to stay. Yeah, there's another reset. And it looks like both runners gonna go through the hook.
And microKorgs finds the mad ogres, decides to throw out an hourglass to stop them.
Yep, and with both a rune axe and an elven bow at hand, these ogres should be pretty short with the rest of their lifespan here.
It looks like Loof is going to skip looting and looking for that chest, or it looks like he just missed that one.
I think it was the first chest. I think I saw him get into the encounter and then maybe a reset out of it. A little bit of an interesting choice. Maybe they feel like they have gotten enough experience from doing that mini reaction grind on the moon that they don't need this. I would have still been tempted to take it with those hourglasses and with Rosa probably not having either Berserk or Blink yet. Kind of want Rosa to get a little bit more powerful to handle this first boss. And just the equipment could be nice.
As chat points out, the knowledge of what is on at the elements location is huge, though. That will kind of affect your grind, how much you're going to put into it.
Yeah, it definitely gives Loof a good idea of what the endpoint is of any grind before they want to start assaulting the giant. Oh, and here is a Mist Dragon.
That's just rude.
It's super rude. As you mentioned earlier, Alicil, this is where we can get another key item from defeating Mist Dragon and then going back up to the surface and finding Rydia's mom sunbathing in the Village of Mist. But Mist Dragon punches real hard here, so we might see a little more grinding.
And then you have to ask yourself, do I leave the Tower of Babel, head back to Mist, and see if it's going to have my magma key?
I probably would, or Magma Key, or there's a Sand Ruby also behind that. That'll get you a Fu, and Fu might have weak, and then you could just go do a D Machine grind. Lot of spicy choices here. And chat and Alicil, I missed what was coming out of that Mad Ogre chest. Did you happen to catch?
Our tracker points out it was a Stardust Rod. That is huge for our Palom.
Yeah, that is the best Black Mage stat stick. Gives plus 15 to that, as well as gives you a free cast of Stardust, which is a good multi-target, about 800 damage. You know, overshadowed by Quake at this point, at least for Loof. But I don't think Korgs quite has Quake yet, since Palom is at level 20.
And Korgs is also going to get the information that he has a bonus round waiting for him here.
Yeah, I like Korgs' chances here a little bit better. Is taking advantage of the back row with more of his characters than Loof is. I don't know if either of those Cecils has been back row glitched, where we equip a long range weapon in their hands, and the game never forgets to take out the bit where it realizes you no longer have a long range weapon. And normally we don't do any agility manipulation in the overworld, and this is about the the transition point from over to underworld, with as fast as this demist is, I might be tempted to use that cursor we got earlier and maybe slap it on Sid or a lower level or unequipped Cecil to kind of get you on more even 4-on-1 footing in terms of getting attacks in.
Very true. This demist is hitting hard and fast.
Definitely have a love-hate relationship with seeing demist here, unless you have an awful lot of levels to just kind of cruise through.
And we see in chat different grind methods being pointed out for the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, there are definitely a few options available to our runners, and ones, especially with the sorcerers, who will continually summon things as long as the sorcerer themselves is alone. So you do have a good way of maybe getting into a fight that can last a long time and get you a decent bit of experience without having to constantly walk around and heal. Ralphie and both runners had to check the music because it was our way underground to get the hook, and it was, as everyone was mentioning, is the Final Fantasy II battle theme.
And we see just how fast that demist is. Can't even get through a full party throwing out attacks.
Yeah, I think I'd be very tempted to back out of this fight, get Rosa up to blink so that you didn't have to heal as much or raise dead characters. Or you could maybe let some of your characters get down to the critical HP and just keep blink up on one Cecil. And that would kind of help you manage the damage a little bit better.
And we see Loof head into his demist fight.
Yeah, noticeably higher levels. We'll see if this goes a little bit better for him.
And his Rosa does have blink, so should hopefully be a little bit of an easier grind. And is using cover strats with both of his Cecils to take care of his squishy characters.
Yeah, definitely is doing a little bit more of a planned job of how to manage the damage that Demus is going to do in this spot. Since it's a pretty high physical spot for kind of that transition to over to Underworld. And Quake is also going to do an excellent amount of work getting slows to out on Demus, kind of let you get in more attacks during each cycle. I definitely like the extra grinding that Loof did to help get through this fight.
And chat points out that it is 6,000 HP here. So quite a bit for our runners to chew through. But microKorgs does get through.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing about that is there's no XP for it, but is through and can now take a nice slow, steady approach to this CPU fight. It's going to save because you wouldn't want to accidentally wipe and have to redo that fight. And Michael Avaz in chat, who is our wonderful tracker tonight, also asking, do you save something in this dragon check? and I'd be real tempted to walk that out and see. Um, CPU isn't going to be that hard, it's just going to be long. I would be less tempted if I was Loof, because he'll get through CPU much easier. But it's a hard choice. This has been an interesting seed with a lot of hard choices on how you decide to grind, since both runners just need to defeat the Giant of Babel.
Well, and really the characters and gear that have been given to us just have not been the best.
That's true. You'd pretty much be relying on Palom to do most of your damage at Zeromus at that point. Like one Cecil would get a Rune Axe, you might Berserk him, and then you'd probably just be bouncing Nuke and White off of a Star Veil on either Sid or Cecil for the rest of your damage.
And we see Loof start his CPU fight. We'll see if he goes for the safer strats or if he goes for power overwhelming.
Yeah, Rosa should have enough MP that you're not too worried about the damage the attacker's going to do, so you want to get rid of the defender and how much it's healing that CPU. We can see 2,100 damage or health the CPU is being healed for the defender, which is always a tenth of its total. So we know it has 21,000 hit points here in this spot.
And to answer Ralthian in chat, we have not seen a Tella yet. There is a Fu in the bed in Kaipo, but we have also not seen a Sand Ruby.
Yeah, so other things that you could be looking for out of that D-Miss check would be the Baron Key or an Earth Crystal or even a package to get more character checks to maybe get a Tella. It would definitely be an interesting play that I'd be very tempted to make as a runner, because it would be unexpected and you might be able to get a good leg up on your. Yes, indeed, Michael Lavaz, it was Fu in the bed in Kaipo. So we don't know what spells he would have either. We haven't fought enough bosses for him to definitely have his full spell list.
And we do see bluffing going on Loof's side. Maybe looking to max out his Palom's wisdom stat and then hit him with a Quake.
Yeah, you're probably doing some counting of damage and just counting it by 200 to 400 a shot to where you've hit about 10,000 or so damage, and then unleash a Quake that you've bluffed up to hopefully near max damage, and then just blitz attack down all the way to where CPU doesn't unleash those Globe 199.
And to go for with Jeebus, I did see one of our runners pick up some ethers, so may start throwing some ethers at their rows.
Yeah, because while Cure 2 doesn't cost that much, Rosa doesn't have that much MP yet either. I'm not sure how many bluffs you'd normally do, Hanger Canuck. I don't think I've ever tried to get Palom up to his full wisdom stat through it. There is a cap that you do hit with the amount of bluffs that you can do, so I'm not actually sure if Quake, even with that Stardust rod that they have access to, but I don't think Loof has, can hit the full 9999.
Yeah, it just really depends on where he's at with his gear and with his levels, how many you need to hit that that maxed out power.
Yeah, and Elsie, do you want to kind of give our audience who might have joined us recently a bit of a rundown of the seed while we have kind of a lengthy fight on our hands?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So, our starting characters were our Rosa and our Palom, and we got a twin harp from the starting character who I don't remember who that was actually.
I don't either.
And our runners just kind of have been fighting, trying to get through a lot of rude bosses. We had antlion in the antlion spot we had Rubicant. We got through Fabul, and then music was required. It was the hook, which then let us go to the rat tail where we got the darkness crystal, and now we are kind of facing off against CPU in the Rubicant spot.
Yeah, after our runners had defeated Rubicant in Antlion, Rubicant got some friends and went to assault Fabul, which we just successfully defended. And then we had just a Dark Knight, we had a Paladin Cecil on both sides with a Palom and a Rosa having to fight Pale Dim at the karate spot in Baron Inn, which was awfully rude. No one had virus yet, so both runners took a little bit of time getting through that fight. And then Mom Bomb at the Twin Harp. Again, we didn't have any good weapons for Cecil at that point, so that was also a very long fight for both runners.
So while the seed did give us kind of a route that wouldn't require underground, with what they've been given just gear and character-wise, just is not viable to not go underground.
And Korak in chat pointing out that mute bells on floor 4 in the Lunar Subterranean would be nice. There is where you would be able to summon a 3 Warlock pack who really only cast magic at you. So if you use a mute bell instantly, they'll just kind of uselessly try to cast spells at you. And it's a lot cheaper than doing Hourglasses and Sirens, since you only need a Siren and a mute bell, and the mute bells don't cost nearly what Hourglasses do. Would be another good alternative grind for our runners. The Sid, you're not seeing CPU in Vanilla spot. You're seeing CPU at Rubicant spot on the way to the hook. Our runners really have to be feeling it an hour and a half in and not yet underground.
And that was not a max damage quake, only doing about 5,700. And his Palom does go down.
Yeah, but you might be able, in a pretty decent spot, if you can get Palom back up and quaking constantly. That Defender's only going to heal for 2,100, and it looked like it did about 5,000 to 6,000 HP from the quake. So you do get a bit of an advantage. I think I might just kind of run with this as fast as I possibly could.
And that quake does it, and he is through.
And it gets a little bit of a nice incidental grind. One neat thing about CPU is it splits the XP in 3 ways, even though it gives the majority of the HP to the CPU. So when you kill those 2 mini globes and then have them resummoned, you get all their experience twice. It looked like it was about 40,000 XP death.
And Loof does not give us a peek at what's the top of the tower.
I'm not too surprised. I imagine that Loof is just going to take their underground access and maybe do some grinding right here. Maybe do Dwarf Castle to find another character. But we'll probably try to avoid the top of the tower just because it's kind of a long walk up and down.
And at 133.31, Loof is our first player underground.
Yeah, we'll have to ask both runners how they felt about getting underground and whether they were nervous about being way behind at these times. Because I know my internal clock says if it's about 50 minutes and I'm not underground yet, I've probably lost the race. But that's definitely not going to be the case for this particular seed because it's been rude.
And Loof immediately going to check Yang. We did get that pan very early on from, I believe that was the Baron Inn. And hopefully trying to get up to 10 key items, as chat points out.
Yeah, get to 10 key items, maybe get some more character checks, looking for a weak caster again. And also, now that you're underground and we'll be going back above ground, would be a good time to check in that demist. If Loof remembers that that was the first boss before that very long CPU fight. Artemis Arrow is not going to be shabby. We'll definitely be able to kill eggs very fast here underground if you decide to use that. Or do the gold dragons on the moon. Both of the Artemis Arrows are strong against dragons and will do extra damage.
And looks like Loof may be checking Dwarf Castle, maybe for items, or may try and take down those bosses. But still does not have a weapon for his Cecils.
No, probably would have been very happy if the light swords had been available here. That'd be the best weapon you could find for Cecil in a shop. And would be enough to go to the end game with.
And we'll see if he goes ahead and validates our seed with our temp job dwarf.
Yeah, another one of the great little randomizations in Free Enterprise where the dwarf who is normally just a farmer underground gets a new job every season. I know in personal honor of Gilmore Girls, I call him Kirk.
And now Loof is fighting against the biggest boss in Free Enterprise, the inventory boss.
Yep, gonna be selling a bunch of stuff. I'm surprised the poison axe hasn't been sold or that ninja shirt. Both of them, the poison axe especially, is really not very good, but sells for a lot. The ninja shirt has nice defense, but is usually not worth keeping around. But they haven't found a whole lot to purchase yet. We have a hotel coordination event or hotel event coordinator.
And we see another black sword for our Dark Knight Cecils, but unfortunately doesn't do us any good now.
Nope, just gonna sell that for about half a siren. So I wonder what the tourist industry is in Tamra. Like, did he have to study somewhere, and do they have a great hotel somewhere?
Well, it might be where they hold all their dwarven conventions.
Yeah, I wonder if they have ADGQ for dwarves.
And it looks like Loof is going to go down and check his freebie in the Feymarch, while microKorgs has defeated the big ball and is through to the underground.
Yeah, that's got to feel good to finally get that CPU down, not have to wipe or come back. Gets a whole bunch of levels on those characters. Definitely not too far behind Loof. It's going to come down to choices underground, I think, and who decides that they're ready to go grind and just assault the giant.
And we see a Baron key. That does give us another key item check. And another chance at a Tella.
Yeah, I would probably do Mist Dragon and the other two pan checks first, but then if I still wanted to get a Tella to do any grinding, then I would definitely be following up on that Baron key. And we find some nice wine in the shop here in the Land of Summon Monster. But nothing much in the armor shop. I think since we've already found cursed rings, I don't think I'd be checking armor, but there's the light swords we were talking about earlier.
I think at this point, you just kind of sell everything you need to get one.
Yeah, I would probably sell everything I need to get two, frankly. And just be done with this. There's a cool 25,000 from that ninja shirt. That'll get them one. They need about another 12, 13,000, I think, to get the other.
And microKorgs is actually going to Dwarf Castle.
Yep, a quick pause before we see some guards that are taking the place of the Kelbranded dolls. It should be a free, easy fight no matter which guards we find here, whether it's the Baron or the Kaipo guards. We've got a turtle and a Bahamut inhabiting the Land of Summon Monster.
Well, the Bahamut won't be too bad. I would not want to mess with that turtle.
No, that turtle's going to make soup of you at this point. Doing 4% of its current HP in the wave attack and also punching very, very hard in that Leviathan spot. The designers of Final Fantasy IV didn't really care about the stats of boss spots where they didn't use a stat. So any place that you have a high level boss that doesn't use attack somehow for some reason got a very high attack modifier, even if their magic might not be so high. And since Leviathan only casts Wave or Ice 2 at you, Leviathan punches very hard and is very fast.
Does look like he's going to try and take on one of those spots. Head straight to the Bahamut, and we see guards go down on microKorg's side.
Yeah, with only 4 Star Veils that we saw in that inventory, we'll probably see Sid not get any protection, and we might have to see Loof do a little bit of physical damage in order to actually take out this Bahamut. And a vanilla but pink-haired Rydia shows up at Dwarf Castle, and we fight some Dark Imps.
And we see Bahamut just kind of get dunked on.
Yeah, I don't think I'd actually have cast slow there. Most of your damage in this fight is going to come from Bahamut just fearlessly breathing at you and getting reflected back at him. And those Star Veils only last so many ticks of the ATB system, so you just kind of want Bahamut to go as fast as possible while you just let the walls do all the work. And Korgs is through that Dark Imps fight, gets some good gold and XP for his party. Definitely, I'm sure, feels very, very good to get those free levels.
And it looks like his top Cecil's Star Veil did fall off. does get through.
Yep, and one Cecil won't miss the little bit of XP here too much. The XP is good, but not fantastic, and we get a spoon.
It is another key item, but not what you would like to see at this point.
No, with no edge to throw it, and since Edward can't equip it in this flag set, the spoon pretty much just counts as a key item. We might still find Edge somewhere, and might take him, because we have seen at least one ninja sword that I don't know if our runners have kept.
And we only got an Hourglass 1 from Wharf Castle.
Well, that was definitely not what microKorgs was looking for there. Sure feels a little bit bad about that time. Meanwhile, Loof is back to the overworld, remembers Demas, is going to check on Rydia's mom.
And gets a Luca key. That does open up another grind to our runners.
It does indeed. They could grind on the trapdoors. It's one of those slower grinds, but it is fairly free. Although you kind of want someone who can cast a wall at a decent speed to make it easy and to get all of your characters the experience. Otherwise, you'll kind of have to just hope the right character has the priority and queue and can toss a star back. But that does put Loof to 9 key items, so hopefully Sheila here hands at least one more so we get to 10.
Only a glass hat from her first check, but does give the tower key for her second, putting Loof at 10 key items.
Yeah, that does now double all experience gained. So those yellow dragon eggs here in the underworld that had been giving you 34,000 experience points would now give you 68,000, which is a very significant boost and can make the seed kind of go by a little bit faster. We still need a lot of levels to get through that by again hiding in the element spot though.
And it looks like Loof may be heading to Dwarf Castle. Might just be getting the free heal here, or maybe deciding to go ahead and take on the bosses.
Yep, and as chat notes, the seed has been fully validated by both runners as we've gotten both music and the job dwarf check from each. And Ralphian in chat pointing out that you probably wouldn't actually chase that sealed cave rabbit hole. I mostly agree. It'd be only worthwhile to maybe check the item and see if it's something that would be very excellent. If it's a crystal sword, it might be worth your time. But overall, I think it would be a bad idea to go chase that, especially since you're at 10 key items and don't need whatever's there.
And it looks like both of our runners are starting their grinds.
Yeah, Korg's not having quite enough damage to defeat the yellow dragon in one shot, so it has to deal with the actual awake version of it, where Loof is taking advantage of having Quake on Palom and just powering. This would also be a good place to give either Cecil or Rosa a bow and those Artemis arrows. You'd be able to power through these eggs pretty quickly, and Final Fantasy IV has a little bit of what we call an arrow glitch, where if you're berserked or if your last arrow kills the enemy, it doesn't actually take that last arrow away. There are a couple ways the last arrow does disappear on a berserk. That usually happen when you are killed and resurrected, you're stopped, or if someone else is the one to cast berserk on you.
And while we've got a little bit of time while our runners do their grinds, I would like to give a huge shout out to RPG Limit Break for letting us stream and have our tournament here on their channel. Thank you so much to RPG Limit Break and to Puexel. We really appreciate it.
And I'm definitely looking forward to when that marathon kicks off in May. The RPG Limit Break has a yearly in-person marathon in the Salt Lake City area, I believe, or where people come together, play RPGs, and raise a great amount of money for NAMI, which is a great organization. Also like to give another shout out to our restream team, Dathis and Michael Lavaz, doing the hard work behind the scenes to make sure that this production comes up and looks nice and pretty.
Yes, thank you so much to our restreamer and our tracker. They're doing all the hard work. We just have to talk.
And of course, the runner's doing the hard work of actually putting on the entertainment for us too. So if you've been enjoying what you've been seeing, feel free to give anyone a follow. I'm sure everyone will appreciate it. And of course, much thanks to Boardface, who has written this randomizer, and Rivers McCown, who does a lot of the kind of planning about what's going to, what we get and how things change.
Yes, and if you're not part of our Discord, we invite you to join. This is a great community. Everybody is very friendly, whether you're a beginner or you're excellent at this game. We would love to have you.
Absolutely, and you don't need to have played Final Fantasy IV before. We have plenty of guides, and there's a number of people who had never played the vanilla game who are great runners in the community.
And it looks like microKorgs is going to go do some of his overworld checks.
Or might
Does
be going
switch out his...
Yeah, might be
go
going to
ahead.
the shop and picking up more hourglasses. I think sirens are on the moon, but hourglasses were here, weren't they?
Gosh, I don't remember.
I imagine we'll find out soon.
And you are correct. Hourglasses are here underground.
Yeah, and extra star veils if you might have used some and want to take on that Bahamut. And Loof feels like might be done with the grind. Summons the giant. We'll see if we actually get a straight attack at Vigan or if we do any more grinding once we're in the giant. And Ferocitas in chat asking if you can play this on an emulator or is a cart required. While you do need a legitimate ROM of Final Fantasy 2 1.1 as it was released in the US, you do not need to play this on actual hardware. You can always play in an emulator. We have a list of approved emulators, which is essentially something modern that is not SNEX 1.4.
And it looks like Loof may be heading straight to that Vigan spot.
And of course, any emulator issues that you'd have would only apply to racing it. You can feel free to play it with whatever you'd like. And yeah, I think we are getting a Vigan attack here, and we'll see how this goes. I didn't see what levels that Loof was at during the grind to know if this will feel pretty free and easy, or if this will be something that will be a bit of a work still. Oh, Cecil's at 2800. This won't be too bad with light swords.
And I do see at least Cure 3 on his Rosa, so... silly Baigen thinking that wall is going to stop those quakes.
Yeah, it won't stop the quakes, but will do a number on the healing available, which is one of the interesting parts of this. And Palom can't quite knock down those arms with just a single quake. I think the arms have about 8,000 hit points. It looks like we might be having at least one Cecil berserked, which will definitely help speed up the fight. As we mentioned earlier, clog the queue so that Baigen and his arms don't get quite as many attacks in through.
And to answer our restreamer, yes, by casting Berserk, those Cecils will no longer be covering any of the critical HP characters.
Yeah, so you might have thought to berserk one Cecil and leave the other one doing attacks by hand, just to make sure that you'll always have cover for Palom and Rosa. Although Chet does point out we don't need a whole lot of cover in this fight. Baigen isn't doing that much damage, especially not to the back row character.
Since this is the vanilla element spot, the developers didn't want you to not actually be able to take down the 4 fiends here. But this is one of the highest HP spots in the game, so it will be a while for him to whittle down all that HP.
Yeah, and microKorgs is joining him in the Giant. Does not yet know who is here, so we'll see if we get a save and then a reset. Again, I didn't quite check, keep a close eye on microKorgs' levels as they ground up.
And it does look like Loof is in a very good spot with his party, although did just accidentally blink his Baigen.
Yeah, that's one thing with constant quakes, when Baigen will always react to that by casting wall on himself, which will then wall your characters. Makes it easy for you to kind of forget who's walled up, and makes it harder for you to cure them or get blinks on them. Those Cecils are doing about 2,000 per hit, so at the about 60 some odd thousand here, the Cecils only need a total of 30 rounds to do. At least one of them does, so with 2 of them, it'll take about 15.
And we do see microKorgs taking on the last arm chest, maybe hoping for a nice piece of equipment for his Cecil.
Yeah, I think this chest has one of the highest chances at tier 7 gear in the game. So definitely not a bad option. And there is one arm gone and Baigen gone. We just have one arm left to go before we get, I think, 200,000 plus XP.
And we only see a protect ring out of that chest.
Yeah, not a bad piece of gear. Definitely could help with cover strats. Looks like microKorgs never found those light swords, so probably be a little bit longer getting through Baigen, unfortunately.
And looks like his levels are significantly lower than Loof's are.
Yeah, Loof did get to 10 key items before the grind, and microKorgs only has 8. So Loof is definitely has an advantage and will be kind of accelerating through the rest of the seed. This CPU spot can give up to 300,000 experience points with that 10 key items. And Antlion's kind of mean. Antlion's going to punch real hard.
And he's going to punch real fast.
Yeah, this is another example of it's a high level spot, and This particular spot only does HP based attacks, so why not give it a whole lot of magic and a whole lot of attack power? You don't want to fight Golbez here without some neat strats where you get a chance to actually get those Star Veils off, because Golbez will do a lot of damage with magic, and any physical attacker will do a lot of damage with the punches. The good thing is there isn't that much HP in this spot, so if we can weather this storm, which I don't think we're going to quite be able to do, then you'll be able to get it down not too badly.
As Jeebus points out in chat, we may want to turn down our battle speed, make it a little bit easier to get the attacks off, and not so many attacks from antlion.
Yeah, and if there's any Silk Web still in that inventory, would be a good time to throw one. And it would be a good time to back-row glitch those Cecils and let them cover from the back row. The Cecils will take a noticeable amount less damage if they were in the back row covering other people. And Scambit points out that glass hat would also help a lot, and also maybe doing going to that last arm chest that we saw microKorgs do and pick up the Protect Ring. That would also give another noticeable bonus to defense, to where one of those Cecils could cover everybody else. Considering that both runners knew exactly what they needed to do in order to beat the seed, had all the pieces there, even though they didn't quite know how to assemble them. We're at 2 hours in, and neither one of them is done. I wonder if either one of them is just waiting for the Dadan to come at any moment, even though they're both pretty much neck and neck at this point.
Very true. Probably nerves are starting to kick in, just wondering why has there been no dot done for my opponent?
I mean, I know I do that when I'm like 30 minutes into a seed, so I can't imagine doing it 2 hours plus and still knowing that you have at least another 10 minutes or so, even if you'd got through this antlion immediately on loop side. We see microKorgs doing a bit of a D machine grind. I think we might have used a hourglass since we're not getting any fight counters from the D machine. So it won't be quite the traditional D machine grind that we'd see if we had a black mage who had a weak.
But it looks like Loof does throw out that that silk web, which should help with slowing down that antlion a little bit.
Yep, and it looks like at least one Cecil has some blinks on. Rose are probably going to keep casting other blinks on the other Cecils. I think we'll be able to get this down. Talon probably going to bluff up a bunch to make those Quakes do a lot of damage.
It looks like he is going to start single casting Virus. It is a very quick spell and does do pretty good damage.
Yeah, and it does have that little poison tick as well, doing a little bit extra damage over time.
Did try to throw out an hourglass. Unfortunately, this boss is not susceptible to hourglass.
Nope, and one Cecil goes down. Looks like we're going to get the other one blinked back up. Hopefully Sid will be able to toss a life potion to the other Cecil. Kind of keep bouncing the antlion's tension between our two paladins.
And this would be one of those fights where you really wish you had one of the moon veils.
Yeah, that would make it entirely free for at least one character.
Especially since Antlion doesn't counter spells, if you could keep your Palom alive, you could keep the two of them just kind of bouncing spells.
So it looks like microKorgs doesn't quite realize that that hourglass hasn't yet worn off. We saw a couple people punching that searcher, and the searcher not doing anything about it. When the searcher is stopped, it will not be able to summon new D machines.
To answer a question in chat about the heal item, it will not work on removing that hourglass. I learned that the hard way.
Korgs does get a nice little mini grind there. 4 to 5 levels on everybody will definitely be helpful. And does pick up a siren from it. Unfortunately, the siren's not going to do super great things for you here.
And with that quake, Loof is through Antlion.
Yeah, cool 300,000 XP on everybody, 4 to 5 levels again, it looks like for him. Definitely ready for Zeromus. We'll see what character's been hiding behind here all this time. It'll be great if it's teleport.
And we see a vanilla cane.
Well, really anyone here is pretty much just going to possibly become your Zeromus anchor. I don't know if Sid got too much XP there in order to kind of bring him out of the range of making all the rest of your party relative agility 1, even with that cursed ring. Kane definitely would be a good anchor here, although you kind of lose out on any chemist ability.
And it does look like he is going to go ahead and take that Sid, or that cane, and replace his Sid.
Yep, just gonna probably give Kane that cursed ring. And we're going to the moon because we don't have a pass.
And we do see microKorgs just kind of plugging away at this Beigen.
Yeah, I think still based on the HP totals, it's still a little bit under leveled compared to where Loof was on this fight. So unfortunately, this will probably take a decent bit more time than it did for. Especially since I don't think microKorgs ever found those light swords in a shop.
And to answer a question in chat from Dragonberg, the reason why Loof got rid of Sid is in this game, the speed of your monsters in your party is based on the center slot. And for Zeromus, you want a slower agility character to make sure that Zeromus isn't throwing out big bangs left and right. And unfortunately, it looked like that Sid got a little too much XP and was a little too high agility.
Yeah, I know I don't know exactly when Sid might get out of the cursed ring range, even with, or get out of great anchor range, even with a cursed ring. He probably would have still been okay, but I would probably just not take the chance. And at that point, you have a Kane. You know Kane's going to be perfect. Just take that and run with it. Death is bringing out the stats. It looks like Sid at level 50 should have 21 agility, and at level 60 should have 25. So since the Cursed Ring gives you minus $15 stats, at level 50, if Sid was there, Sid would only have 6 agility, meaning that you would have to have more than 16 or more agility to be relative agility 1, which means that for every tick of the ATB, you can enter the queue if you're able to. If you had like 15 agility, then it would take 2 ticks of ATB for you to be able to enter the queue.
Very, very true. I just try to get to the numbers that they tell me to get to because it's math and makes my brain melt.
The only math that I remember is that your relative agility 1 if you're more than 2.5 times the agility of your anchor. So say your anchor is at 10 agility, you need to be 26 or higher, because 2.5 times would be 25, and you have to beat that number. I can't do the math of knowing what agility an enemy is and knowing where breakpoints are. That's math I cannot do in my head. And since Zeromus is a little bit too big, a little bit too bad, and a little bit too scary to randomize himself into different places, we do a different thing. And with that different thing, we do have a question that we ask every seed. Alicia, would you like to do the honors?
Sure. We would like to know, whose butt are we gonna kick tonight?
I'm really looking forward to seeing more of those version 4.0 Z sites that Scala Kitty has added to the pool. And Chad is getting their Z flags out. There are, I believe, about 450 or more Z sprites available to be randomized, and that is a default flag at this point.
And we see the crystal go out.
Zeromus says, grr, erg.
And we see Chaosmus.
I imagine this is a sprite from maybe Record Keeper or one of the Pictologica or something that is a Final Fantasy 1, the end boss there, but in a very much updated sprite. It's some gorgeous work.
I think it might be from, and chat may know this for sure, from the Dissidia game.
Yeah, it looks like chat is agreeing with you. I have not played that at all, so I would not have been able to pick up on that. I will admit my knowledge of Final Fantasy kind of stops at 10. I haven't played much beyond that, so I have a very limited range of Final Fantasy related Z-Sprite.
I believe there's actually 2 Chaosmuses in the pool. There's this one, and then there's one that I think is based off of the Record Keeper Pictological one.
Then there might even be 3, because I'm pretty sure even the vanilla FF1 Chaosmus is available in the pool, too. At least I've seen one that looks kind of 8-bitty.
We see that first Big Bang go out was successfully nerfed.
Yeah, if you can trick Zeromus into throwing a nuke at you at the right times, that will make him lower his attack power in order to cast that nuke at you, and then won't reset it in time for the Big Bang if you do it quite correctly. The first one's pretty easy to nerf. Later ones are a little bit harder because the timing is pretty tight. But I think with the levels on these Cecils and it gets them zerked up, then you don't really have to worry about nerfing any other ones. Palom will probably bounce some nukes, and Rosa will do some healing.
Yep, these look like pretty standard tactics for taking down Zeromus.
Although Palom just going straight forward with the damage overwhelming, the direct nukes, a cool 9,000 on that. One of the interesting strats that runners can employ against Zeromus is that if you bounce spells at him and only do reflected damage after about 40,000 damage done to him, you won't trigger his refill mechanic, which only triggers on direct damage done after I think about 41 or 45,000. So that means that you have to do much less damage overall to Zeromus, but then you do have to deal with all the long spell animations from nukes and whites being bounced.
And we do have microKorgs still plugging away at Vigan. All of his party members are up, which is always a good sign. And we see rocks and a GG. There's the flash.
Yeah, GG's to Loof, who has gone 2-1 winning this seed. A very long trolley seed, and we'll see if we can get him in for an interview.
Hi everyone.
Hello, GG's.
Thanks. What a seed.
Yeah, tell us about how you felt when you knew what you had to do, but still have like an hour of actual gameplay left.
I love that kind of scenes. Seriously, I'm used before the Fabul Gauntlet was actually announced. I was only running on Catalyte and stuff like that, so I was kind of a little prepared for some very weird stuff to do. And when I saw exactly my situation, and okay, I have the Darkness Crystal, and all that's left is doing the Giant, and I'm like, I'm going to save to the way to the underground just in case, but I'm going to do some boss checking. I see Big N. I know I'm not able at that level to do that. I know I do not have the gear, and I'm like, okay, so I was right. I feel like I need to go underground just to get some gear, at least some swords for my Cecils. Getting to Cecils like that, and the best weapon I actually get is a rune axe and some fire swords. That was wow. So I was either going to start chasing chests left and right, or I was going to go underground and see what the shops can do for me, since this is not a Kettle Light. This is there's actually shops, and as far as I know, there's always at least light swords in the underground. I don't know if I'm right, but I feel like it is always like that from the practice I've done since the start of the Fabul Gauntlets.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're guaranteed, but they're definitely possibly available.
So I was feeling like, okay, that should help me, and I know I have to do Big N. I know I have probably something very hard to do past Big N. And wow, that was interesting. and I never actually had to do antlion before at the CPU emplacement, and I was not ready for that. I did improvise, I think, okay-ish. I didn't manage to do my fight, and it was a little long, I know, and all, but I think actually took the right angle, and also I'm kind of glad to having been able to do that, since it was such a new situation for me. I haven't done a lot of run before. Maybe I think I'm about at 60 right now, so I still feel like a very new player. I'm not used to speedrunning or even streaming either. I mean, if anyone watched my first game, they would have seen that there was a lot of glitch. There was a lot of problem on my side. Again, I apologize for that. So apologize to RP Gamer or Power RPG for that. And even for the last week, actually, I was so stressed out when I started the game. Instead of clicking on streaming, I clicked on recording and never streamed my game. It's fine. I was playing against Nabla Force, which is an incredibly good player. So I was not confident at all. I was pretty much sure I would lose that one. Today I came in with a lot more confidence. I was kind of much more prepared mentally for today. So, I did manage to do the antlion fight, and after that, well, Zeromus was very easy. Yeah, I feel like the real boss right here was antlion. It was not Zeromus.
Yeah, all that damage antlion can do with the punches, and then giving you a lot of XP for the reward, definitely makes Zeromus a lot more trivial than it normally would be.
Exactly. So the moment I saw, okay, I should have enough sirens for whatever the giant's going to throw at me, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get even more levels, but I feel like I should be prepared for going into the giant, and I'm very glad I did all that leveling, because seriously, I would have been able to find some illusions. I don't remember if I saw some in the item shops. I don't feel like I saw some. But that would have helped a lot against antlion, but I was already out of that. So, so yeah, that leveling really paid off.
Yeah, but you managed to fight pretty well. Do you remember how you felt when you saw what the damage was like against that pale dim very early in this?
The Pilgrim fight was something. Actually, I'm used. I love starting with Palom. The Quick Boy is actually my favorite character in the game. When you start with it, it's such a very quick first part of the game. So I enter the fight. I do not have virus, and usually you simply cast virus. It's kind of, simply you bluff a lot and just cast virus, and usually you're fine. And I actually forgot that it actually absorbs elemental damage. That must have been really funny on stream. I really hope the chat had a blast with that. When I saw the damage, I was, it's fine. I think I can do that. It was just a very long fight, but it was still, I think, a very manageable fight.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you're feeling more confident. Have you kind of gained some confidence as you've done this a bunch throughout the tournament?
Well, since my first game, I actually watched a lot of games restream, and even those that are not restreamed, just to get more knowledge about what can be done, what cannot be done, and I've been practicing since then. The thing is, Nabla Foss was such a good player that I was starting my week 2 game and simply telling myself, yeah, the guy just too tight. He's incredible. So I was like, no, I don't think I'm going to win, except if there is some left field stuff going on. there actually was not. It was a very, very quick run. I believe the time was maybe 1:20 or something like that. And it did perfectly, and I actually made a lot of mistakes just from feeling like, oh yeah, I'm really not as good as that guy. For this game, I was a little more confident. I felt like microKorgs are about at the same skill level as me. It does some things very well. It does some of the other thing I do better than him. But I felt like, yeah, okay, I can do this one. I feel like the skill level is actually pretty much in the same range as me, so I was a lot less stressed. And like I said, I watched so many streams lately that I absorbed so much knowledge about the game that I feel like, yeah, I'm much more prepared now.
Well, you did a wonderful job, and we definitely appreciate you letting us restream you.
Well, my pleasure. Feel free to do that again, and thank you for all the awesome work you do for the community. Those restream are very fun to watch, and I really hope that you'll be able to do much more.
Well, thank you. Any other thoughts, Antidale?
Well, thanks to everyone on the restream staff. Thanks to everyone running the tournament. Thanks to microKorgs. The guy's really fun. I had a fun time chatting with him, preparing the time and all. So he's a great guy now. So I felt like, yeah. And thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and good luck to you and the rest of your tournament as you go 2-1 and get very much closer to being able to get into the brackets, or at least get into one of those play-in matches.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I was actually entering the tournament telling myself, oh, I'll be 0-5. I'm going to lose 5 games and that'd be it. And I'm now 2-1. And pretty much, oh, I might be able to get in bracket. That's a very weird thought.
Yeah, practicing on those bracket seeds definitely would help you, or those catalyte seeds would definitely help you in your quest to learn more and get better at strange situations. So that's a really good tip for all of you.
Sorry, I actually missed that. I cannot hear you anymore.
Oh, okay. I was just saying that you're practicing on the catalyte seeds that you said you had done. Definitely a good way to get better at the game really fast. They can put you in some strange situations.
Quite indeed. So yeah. That's actually the best advice I could give to anyone. Run a lot of very hard seeds just so that you get more experience at getting thrown at stuff that you shouldn't have to do usually. But if you ever need to be able to do that in a run, well, you're equipped for it. So yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. We'll let you go. Maybe get some sleep. And GG's on your right.
Well, thank you, and thanks again for the restream, and thanks everyone for watching. Ciao.
And that was Loof, our winner of this race, going 2-1 in the Fabul Gauntlet.
And while we were in that interview, microKorgs did make it through the giant and is on his way down to face his Chaos Mist.
Yeah, looks like he kept that cane and his equipment a little bit. I wonder if we'll see a little bit more grinding. I know Rosa did not make it out of that Baigan fight alive to get that XP, so might need just a little bit more levels to feel confident in this Zeromus fight. I know the times that I've been on the restream in community races or in any tournament race, or even just I know people are watching and I've already not won the race, I kind of like to grind up just a little bit more so I don't have to worry about wiping to the Zeromus and kind of extending stuff longer than it maybe has to. So wouldn't be surprised if microKorgs is doing that just to make sure he gets a nice clean showing at the final fight.
Yep, probably just wants to make sure to bring it on home without any problems. And because we did not find a pass, does have to make the long trek down. I believe somebody timed it one time, and it is about 2.5 minutes of walking.
Yeah, and they're 2.5 long minutes, especially if you if your opponent is not done yet and you're just waiting for that dot done to come in at any moment. And Dath is in chat asking a very interesting question. We know the adamant is behind sealed cave, and if you knew that, would you do that check to get an Excalibur in the seed, or would you maybe go look at other bosses or other spots in order to get maybe a crystal sword? Here we've got a very nice fight for grind.
Yes, this fight, with the life glitch, can get you pretty close to 300,000.
Yeah, most of the experience is tied up in that officer, so if you're able to stop them like they have been and maybe cast Fatal on the officer or just target the officer entirely and get a life glitch off, it can definitely boost you a lot. Looks like microKorgs still is only at 9 key items, so only will be getting about 100,000 from this. It doesn't look like they're going to do any life glitch.
But even so, still will boost that cane up to almost Zeromus ready levels.
Yeah, since Kane will get 200,000 XP out of this fight, definitely probably see him in the very high 30s or low 40s. I bet microKorgs would be very happy to see some good weapons out of these chests, or a good weapon and a key item to kind of help that grind go a little bit faster.
And does look like ran out of arrows on his Rosa, but does have some samurai arrows in the back.
Yeah, those do in a pinch for a nice 1,000 points of damage.
Does get 2 key items from that check, but not 2 key items you'd really want.
No, but at this point, you're not really looking for any specific key item. You're probably just looking to get the double XP. If there are any sirens left in that inventory, I bet we see a gold dragon come out next. Yeah, and 25 levels on that Kane through the fight. That'll put Kane at 35. Is getting pretty close to Zeromus level, and we'll get double XP one more time. So we'll see 4 times XP for Kane in this next fight over the base experience he would normally get. I have a feeling. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Does have 7 sirens left, so does go to take out some of those King Reed.
Yeah, and as Deathless in chat is pointing out, Kane's getting a lot of agility. I imagine that microKorgs isn't going to worry about agility too much. It's just going to kind of over-level and beat Zeromus with overwhelming power rather than power and strategy at the same time. One of those Cecils also might soon be at the end of this fight at the level that he has 28 agility, which is the first breakpoint at which Zeromus himself is not at relative agility 1. It would instead be relative agility 2. Could also grind Kane up to where Kane has 42 to put Zeromus at relative agility 3. That would take a bit of grinding, though. I'm not sure it'd be worth the time. And I'm not sure if he actually picked up and kept the curse ring. I know it's been an option. I think he saw it in shops, but just might not be worrying about agility anchoring too much in this fight or in the game overall. I don't know if Sid had it, and it kind of disappeared when Sid got dismissed either.
And did not pick up those lightsabers for his Cecil, so may want to get to a higher level just to get a little bit more damage output.
Yeah, it would not surprise me if that's most of the drive for this. Get Palom to nuke, get those Cecils to where they'll actually do some reasonable damage. His Ice Brand's a little bit low to go into the Z fight with. Rosa gets white and the kid gets weak, so Palom is about 3 levels away from getting nuke.
And with weak, these grinds on these dragons does get significantly faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And there we see a life glitch. Makes it much easier to know when to throw that life potion, because you know that next attack's going to kill the dragon, so we'll definitely accelerate the grind even more. It would definitely feel nice. Unfortunately, you can't life glitch the last enemy on the screen. There's the kid with Meteo. Kane and Cecil getting more levels. This party is getting close.
And with this last fight, that should get the kid up to nuke.
Yeah, I think there's one dead level in between Meteo and Nuke, and I couldn't tell if Palom got 1 or 2 levels in that last fight. But especially at that HP total, nuke is going to happen here with getting 180,000 out of this fight.
And there is nuke on the kid, and he is off.
Yep, definitely going to lean hard into Palom doing most of the damage in the Z fight, I think. Palom's definitely got all of the HP he needs. 2,000 is a pretty good total for a mage. While the Big Bangs can do a lot of damage, mages have higher wisdom and will stats, so they'll also just naturally have higher magic defense and more multipliers on their fates. It looks like there is a curse ring there that's going to go on a Cecil. Puts him to 18 agility. Not too bad. Not super great, though.
May just be hoping for some damage overwhelming from his Palom's nuke.
Yeah, I would definitely be willing to bank on that. Probably throw Starville up on one of those Cecils. Hopefully, there's still some Cure 3s maybe in that inventory. Um, get Kane and a Cecil berserked so they just kind of clog the queue and chip away at damage, and let Paladin drop 7 to 9,000 point nukes on Zeromus' face. And could even just entirely use Palom as a damage source. Palom definitely has enough MP to do it, and if you just reflect them all, you'll only need 7 or 8 nukes to do it, I think, at the levels that Palom is probably at, and if he kept that Stardust run.
Well, and possibly with a few whites from Rosa to supplement that.
Yeah, absolutely. White takes a little bit longer to cast, but it is worth it, especially if you can time the Zeromus well enough to where you can go straight from casting white to casting Cure 4 and then back to white. Gambit, no math percent is for Final Fantasy Tactics. It's like microKorgs is just kind of cycling the party around to get to the correct person he would like to throw the crystal.
And with his true colors emerging, we see a reprise of Chaosmus.
Yes, we all get to enjoy this wonderful sprite work one more time. Palom, not even waiting for the slightest bit of an introduction, just goes straight to a nuke and then gets a counter nuke directly to the face. Yeah, that is a fast big bang too, taking out the kid, even though it was nerfed because the initial nuke doing about 1500, kid just didn't have enough.
Is going to try and get his kid up with a life too.
Yep, and at least one of those Cecils is berserked, doing about 2,000 damage. So I think his Cecils are a little bit higher level than Loof's were.
And out comes the second big bang.
Oof, and high rolls the kid for 2,100. Down goes Palom one more time. That Zeromus is just really fast with that Cecil being at 18 agility, and Palom doesn't have a great agility stat, so Palom is probably going in at relative agility 3 or 4. I don't know if we got a Silk Web off either, which would help things.
I did not see a silk web go off, so Zeromus is just chugging along as fast as he can.
And unfortunately for microKorgs, that is awfully darn fast. Hopefully we can get some of these, but we did get a black hole too, which took that wall off of Rosa, which will let her heal herself, keep everybody up. I think at this point it might just be better to get all your berserkers going and let Rosa heal up so that you're not in too bad of a spot. Oof, and another high roll. Takes on another character, and then the mass virus. Hopefully Rosa can get a turn pretty fast here.
Black hole does go off, giving Rosa enough time to get that Cure 4 out.
Yeah, Zeromus has two different magic spell powers that will get you two different multipliers out on the normal Big Bangs. The first couple will be 8 rolls, and the second one actually does an extra roll of damage. So that's why you'll often see that third Big Bang in the sequence take out characters that the first two hadn't been able to, because it does actually more damage.
And Cecil holds on with 10 HP.
Rosa coming to the rescue, probably going to be casting just a lot of Cure 4. Hopefully there's enough Ethers and MP in the tank to get through this fight.
And we do see the single cast nuke, which means that Zeromus has moved into the next phase.
Yeah, so that means we only need a little bit more damage in order to kind of trip into Meteor Phase 2. And we won't get any more of those multicast viruses, which is a little bit nice to know that you can't go from Big Bang to virus in one. And you can see the effects of that curse ring, where the Cecil in the middle who has the curse ring on and has much reduced magic defense, taking a lot more damage than the Cecil who does not have the curse ring on. Death is in chat pointing out that microKorgs does have other ways of nerfing the Big Bang. The crystal always counts as a magic attack, even though it doesn't do any damage, and will cause Zeromus to do a counter nuke. It's a little bit risky here, I would feel. You don't have any Star Veils up on any characters to have that character be protected. And if Rosa eats the Big Bang or eats the counter nuke and you don't successfully nerf it because the timing is tighter, Rosa's going to go down, and then you're going to be in an awful pickle trying to get everything back.
And Rosa is just about out of NP.
She does manage to get a Berserk off on a Cecil, so that'll help slow Zeromus down a little bit relatively. And hopefully she can drink a quick Ether. And she has a fully empty MP bar. Hopefully we have maybe an Elixir or an Ether 2. There's an Elixir. That's good news.
And we do see that middle Cecil go down.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we just leave him napping on the floor, berserk the other Cecil, and let Rosa cast some Cure 3s or Cure 4s. But nope, here comes Out of Life. Using that life too to get Cecil up fully, and Rosa takes a nuke.
And that does take his Rosa down.
Yeah, this is not a great spot to be in. You can really see how Zeromus is accelerating his turns as you don't have anyone kind of getting in the queue in front of him and blocking him from being able to take action. Hopefully, microKorgs can pass turn to Rosa pretty quickly and get her up and casting a Cure 4 before the next big bang.
And it looks like she does get that Cure 4 out in time.
Yeah, that should help solidify things a little bit. I think even the top Cecil there will survive this big bang. Oof, Rosa takes another direct nuke, but at least she has some hit points this time and is able to survive.
Gets that Cure 4 off in time so that a poorly timed Big Bang won't take her down.
Yep, and the Cecils just continued to keep chipping away. I think that with Rosa with still 250 HP, we're doing okay. Definitely has done a good job of stabilizing after looking like it might be near disaster with Rosa down and only 2 Cecils up.
And we do see rocks falling.
That has got to be a big sigh of relief that we're getting, that microKorgs is giving off when he first saw those rocks come down. Definitely know this fight is nearly over. Cecil's can kind of clean up. Rosa has definitely enough MP to heal through the meteors that are coming down because they just don't do quite enough damage. Especially if she nimbly dodges them. Rosa casts Berserk, that might be the last necessary input for this fight.
And we see the flashbang, and that is GG.
And we are joined by microKorgs. GG. That was a tough seed. Saw you light up in Discord a little bit. Are you having a little bit of trouble, microKorg? We can hear you typing at least.
I think I got it going.
Ah, there we are.
Am I coming through doubled or am I alright?
No, you sound good to me. Chat,
Wow.
does it sound good to you? But go ahead and tell us what you thought of that seed while chat tells us whether or not you're doubled up.
I guess you and chat just watched me bang my head against several different walls during that. I'm pretty new to this, if you couldn't tell, and it was a lot of fun, but there were different spots that I just didn't have a faster way of getting through.
There were a lot of rude spots in that seed. Elsie, do you want to kind of ask him about some of those?
Sure. So, yeah, this was not a seed that that anyone would want to get for sure. How did you feel kind of seeing that CPU guarding the entrance to the underground?
I guess I just knew it would take a while. I knew I could beat it because I guess... Is there any spot where CPU is literally impossible or it's just a longer of a slog? I'm still learning that, but yeah, I didn't know what else to do to get past that quicker.
Yeah, CPU is always possible because it's all HP based stuff. You just kind of have to level out at some point.
And I guess my opponent was telling me in chat, or maybe it was, is it Dathis? That I should have been grinding, I guess in Babel. I don't know that grind spot.
Yeah, you can, just outside the save room, you can get some decent encounters in Babel.
Okay.
And also, we did have Sirens on the Moon and the Hourglasses available. So you had a couple other grind options even on the Moon too, to kind of jumpstart XP if you wanted. But it's hard to make those decisions in the middle of a race.
Yeah, and I'm still learning a lot of this. I just watched the Highway to Zeromus Zone over the summer, and that got me into it. And I just started playing like about a month ago, so I'm still getting my feet underneath me. But it's been a lot of fun, and thank you so much for everyone that was involved in the restream. That's thanks for everyone that stuck with it to the end.
Well, thank you for letting us put on a show. Again, for somebody new, you did great. This was not a seed that I would want to play personally. But you got through it, you stuck with it, and you took out Zeromus.
I did. He's done. Thank you so much.
Yeah, do you have any other thoughts on the seed?
Only that I just found out that the light swords were in Tamra, and I wish I'd gone to Tamra. I hear it's very nice this time of year, replete with light swords, and I had 0.
Yeah, that was one of the places where Luv really just kind of took off on you. He got to 10 key items and found those light swords and was able to grind a little bit faster and got to some higher levels on the way up to going to the giant and taking out Bigan.
So he didn't bring 3 ice weapons to the Z fight then, huh?
Did not, no.
All right. Moon was colder tonight.
Yep, you definitely brought the temperature down a little bit.
Thanks again to both of you and everyone on the team.
Yeah, GG's. That was a well-run race. Definitely, you have shown a lot of promise.
Thanks so much. Have a good night.
You too. Well, we are about done here at RPG Limit Break, showing you some free enterprise races, but I do think we still have another race going on tonight.